All right, so now let's look at the JavaScript. So what is JavaScript? JavaScript is programming language of the web, and it can update and change both HTML and CSS. You can say it's an exportive language, all right, to change the contents of the HTML elements and also sometimes to change the CSS, all right. And let's look at an example below here. So we have two elements, one is heading 2 and one is paragraph. So we can access HTML elements using its ID. Okay, so that means you need to give an ID to HTML elements so you can change the content of the elements and also change the CSS properties. All right, so we have a paragraph tag and it has ID as demo, so that could be any name. You can select whatever the name you like, but so the paragraph with an ID demo, and we have a content inside, that is JavaScript can change HTML content. All right, so this is the content inside. It could be any paragraph, could be any text. So we are saying that when we click on this button, we have a button there, and we are going to choose an event that is on click, and we say document get element by ID. So that's mean we are trying to access this element paragraph tag and using its ID, that is demo, and trying to change its content, that is inner HTML, that will be hello JavaScript. Let's try this one and you get more understanding of what I'm saying, that using JavaScript you can change the content and also could change the CSS properties. All right, so now let me create a new file, and that file name could be gs practice, let's say, then it's an HTML. Oh, that's file is already that. Let's js practice. So now we have this file, and exactly the same way we have style for the CSS, style opening and closing tag, that you can type your CSS property inside this one. And for HTML we have an opening HTML and closing HTML tag that we use. So we also use an opening and closing tag for the JS as well. That will be script and opening and closing tag of script. So our script will be inside this one. All right, and let me fix the typo. SCRINPT, this is in a script tag. All right, and let's so there are four different ways to run your JS program. One is using console, one is using alerts, and one is using document write, and then the fourth one that we have just seen before. Let's try to do exactly the same thing that we have seen an example. So I'm going to create an HTML page that will be in HTML, and let's say we have a head tag with the title inside, and could be JS first program, and then we have a body tag, and inside body tag we have our p tag element, and its ID is, let's say ID is PID. All right, so you see now I change this name. You can select whatever the name you like without spaces, and this is going to be my text inside. That we can say that this is my first JS program. All right, and now I'm trying to access this element and change its content. That would be document dot get element by ID, because we have an element with an ID, and the ID is PID. P is P with small I dot, because it's case sensitive, and PID dot inner HTML. That is the first way of changing and displaying the content. And we are saying you need to change the content of this element, that this is my first JS program, and then we can say maybe welcome. No, instead of saying welcome, let's focus on the most of programming language. The first program is hello world in JS. All right, and now I need to run this program. Let me navigate to the directories that we have. The directory name is 319. All right, it's an HTML, and then JS, and the file name is this one, jspractice.html. And you see now I just changed the content of that element, hello world in JS, right? Before it has different content inside. Uh, this is my first program in JS. So that's mean using JS we change the content of the element. We can also change the CSS properties. Let's say I can change the background color of this paragraph element. Document get element by dot style dot background, and let's say let be equal to red. Okay, and let's see the change here. You see now I change the CSS properties here. So that means JS can be used to change the content of the elements, and also can be used to style your elements. All right, now let's look at few different ways to run your JavaScript program. And this is the first way that I have explained, that using init HTML we change the content of the elements. And other ways, different ways are, now let comment this one. Now I'm not going to change the content of the elements. You will see the original content will be, this is my first JS program. That was the original content of the HTML elements. Okay, so we can also use, most of the time we use this one, that is an alert, and to display something. Let's say let's do arithmetic operation like 5 plus 9. All right, that is another way of displaying, or to see an output of JS programs. Sometimes we use alert, sometimes we use document get element, but sometimes we use console, and sometimes we change the content of the elements. I I I believe this one you will use more in your JS journey, because most of the time you are changing, you're doing form validations. I can show you an example in a few minutes, but you are doing form validation and you're going to change some content of the elements. But let's look at the alert first. And if I run this one, you will see an alert, and the sum of two numbers is 14, and this is an alert box. All right, and then there is another way of running your JS program, or to see the output, that is console.write console.log. And you can do exactly the same thing. Let's say do exactly the same operation, console.log, and adding two numbers. And if I run this one, you will not see any output, and that is in Mac operating system, it is command shift and J, and you will see console. This is the console, and you can see this is the tab that we have console here, and the output is 14. All right, so this is another way of running your JS program. And the final one is that is called document.write. Okay, I again have a type of document.write, and let's do the same arithmetic operation again, and you will see now it will write something inside my HTML page, that is 14 here. So we did an arithmetic operation here. All right, so JavaScript is more, we can say the more similar is to C++ programming language, and most of the time we teach them in your third year, on the last year. So you already have an experience. If you have an experience C++ or any other programming language, that it will be very 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 easy for to understand these concepts, but very similar to C++. And okay, so this is an internal CSS that we just have seen. This is an internal CSS, but you can also have an external CSS. External CSS mean that you need to create a JS file, right? That will be, let's say, my.js dot, the extension will be there. This is going to be your JS file, and you can write your script inside this one. And now you don't need tags here. Then you have a function here. Let's say that we have a function here, and its job is to alert box. And exactly the same way we have the name of the function without any parameters. Inside this function we just going to print something. Let's say could be anything. Let's say again hello world, let's say. So that's the function. And exactly the same way we have an external styles here, you can include this one in your HTML pages, that in the head section, mostly preferable is the head section, and the tag is script and source, and you need to provide the source. The file name is JS my.js that we have just created, and if you close this one, then you will see we can access these methods inside here, and the function name is alert box. If I see alert box, alert, let's just copy the method, and that will be alert box. All right, and I just call these functions, so that's me. It will not print anything because I'm not using any no, it's working. So that's mean I just call the function, and in that function we just printing out the hello world message. Okay, so that was an external JS file, and you can do exactly the same thing. That you can, once you have this JS file inside your inside your HTML page, then you can do exactly the same thing. Let's say I'm just going to copy this one from here, and let's say hello world, and going to change the content of the elements. All right, and PID, and that will print hello world in JS. And you will see this is the old one, that was the content of the element before that. But if I run this page, then it will change the content of the element now with an external JS. All right, so you can define your all function inside an external JS and then call those functions. But let's focus on internal JS first. Okay, let me comment this one again, and let's look at some basic JavaScript operations. So we have this is an internal. You can also have an external JS, and then this is an important one, that's below and after. So you need to put in the header section of your JS program in the header section, or do you need to put at the footer section? So that's me, that if you, sometimes it doesn't work if you put in the header section. I can show you an example that if I move this script, let me move this script from here and move this script above inside the header section. Let me comment this one, I don't need this one, and I paste it here, and you will see it will not change the content of the my element. The logic is, let's see first, and the logic is that this is the old content inside my paragraph tag, and the JS is not changing these content of the elements. Why? Because the browser has already paused. If you put this one in below, then that means the browser has already paused and loaded the paragraph elements. This means the document get element has find the element, then update its content. Okay, but if you move this script above, then the problem is that your script will run, JavaScript will run, because it's top to bottom, script will run, but it will not find an HTML paragraph tag inside. That's mean it will return null because the element is not there, because the script will run first. Okay, that's the logic between below and after. All right, what else is important that we also, that's an example of external JavaScript file. We will look at functions in a few minutes, that how to declare functions and how to pass parameters and these kind of things in a few minutes. The idea is now you can create an external JS as well, and also internal JS. And if it's an external JS, you need to include in the header section. If it is inside your HTML page, then it could be in the header section or below or after. But you need to look at if it is changing the content of the elements, it will be below. If it's not changing the content of elements, maybe you calling some function based on some events, then could be in the header sections. Okay, these properties, the 4 different ways of running, we already have seen that. Inner HTML, change the content, document write, windows.alert, console.doc. You can use different ways to display or to show the output of your variables, or maybe the functions that you want. All right, so this one we have seen. You can change this example, changing the content of the elements. This is the element we have, and it's changing the content. That will be okay. So this is interesting. So you can look at this one. This is the paragraph tag, an element with an ID and demo. There's no content inside, but what we're doing right now is that document get element this with an ID demo, and we are also inserting some elements inside this paragraph. That means this hello world will be within h2 tag. So that means you can also insert tags inside your paragraph tags or whatever the divs you have. You can use these elements also. You can also insert elements using JS. All right. And yeah, that's an example of document write, and that's an example of window dot alert you can display. Okay, now let's look at statement. So we have, okay, there are two different ways to declare variables. One is using let variables, let x and y. This is statement of variables, and then we just adding two numbers, and these are variables that we already have declared: declaration and assigning. This is an assignment, and then we added two numbers, two variables, their values, and store in a third variable, that is z. Okay, the difference between let and variable, because if you need to declare variable var, that is most preferable approach. But let's look at the difference first. If you have a variable x is equal to 2, then x cannot be used here. That means let variable has a local scope, and local scope, or you can say the block of scope, and the variable var has global scope. That means var x is equal to, you can also access this variable even here. X can also be used here, that with the global scope. That's the difference between let and var. And now let's look at the few more keywords. So we have now look at why to declare variables. Let declare block of variables, but their scope is different than constant values. If these are to have conditions, which is if else if else, and then we have switch statements, for loop functions, return if some function returns some values, and try catch, these to handle errors, try and catch blocks. All right, so this is an example of variable. So we have a variable x that is 5, let's say, and in C++ we declare variables like int x is equal to something, but in JavaScript you don't need to look at these kind of data types. It automatically understands variables in JS, that var x is equal to 5, then var y, let's say, so 6, and then we a third variable z that is adding two numbers. We also call them identifiers. Okay, identifiers variables, and variable names are unique. All right, could be any name, but try to have a descriptive name, exactly the same we have in C++, that you need to to have a variable with descriptive names. For example, if I'm storing an age of student, then the variable should be like student age. Should not be like, not like var x is equal to, let's say, 25. That doesn't make any sense. Descriptive name will give you some meanings. All right, and then the rules are exactly the same like we have for C++. Let's forget about C++. Let's look at the some rules. The rules mean that variables, this is a variable x, and you cannot use some symbols, like you cannot have a variable like this one. This is not a valid variable name, and but you can use the only valid symbols you can use is underscore. For all, I think almost all programming languages, I have seen this one in Python, C++, PHP, and JavaScript, C sharp. So this is valid. If you use underscore, that is allowed most of time declaring variables. If you don't want to put this underscore, that's fine too, but very most of time programmers use underscores. All right, and but you cannot use like these symbols, that then it's not a valid variable. You can see that the line below is ready saying something is wrong here, and you can also not use like this is not a valid variable name. And descriptive name is mean that std, let's say student age, this is a descriptive name, and that way of declaring variable is called camel casing. But you can select whatever best suits to you. You can use maybe underscore here, that also makes sense. All right, so we these are different rules for variables. That this is called declaration, this is declaration, and then you can assign value. This is we already know, but declaration and assign are both in a single line, then that would be, let's say, 15 14. So we have a variable and it has age 14. All right, so this is just a declaring variable and assigning values. And what else that we have seen, local and global and constant variables. Constant variables, that's mean their value cannot be changed. And if once if you declare constant variable, then you need to assign variables. That's mean this is an incorrect way of that, of a constant variable, that you have constant pi, and the next line you assigning a value. That means the first is declaration and then assigning the value. That is incorrect in JavaScript. If you're declaring a constant variable, you need to assign value to your constant variables. Now look at this variable. These both are capitalized. It's not a problem, because in JavaScript, when the variables are case sensitive, that this one is different than this one. Okay, that's the idea. All right, so now let's look at operators, because now again I'm saying that this most of time we offered JavaScript or web technologies in almost your third years or maybe fourth year. You are already familiar with basic programming language. So these are the JavaScript operators that you have seen before: that assignment, then additional operators, adding two numbers, multiplication, greater than, less than, greater than equal to, less than equal to, and these are operators. And then we have multiplication, exponential, and divisions, and modulus operator. Then if you need to find even on odd numbers, we sometimes use modulus operators to look at the remainders. And increment, and two plus signs is the increment, then decrement value. And see this one. So now, so look at this variable. So we have an x is 5, the result will be 10. And see this one, let y. Now this one is a string variables. Okay, this it's a variable, but this value is a string, that 5. Okay, and then we adding 5, then the result will be 5. It's not going to be a 10, because this is a string. So it will do a concatenation here, not addition. All right, and then we have another variable here again. Then again we have a string, and then a number. Then you will get hello 5, because again it's a concatenations. Okay, it's not doing any arithmetic operation here. All right, so then operators, we have these operators, and these are the short forms that sometimes we use. That is equal to x is equal to, is equal to x, y, that's saying. But x plus is equal to y is equal to x is equal to x plus y. Okay, this is the short form. And then we have x minus equal to y, that is equal to x is equal to x minus y. That's mean you have an x value, and then you're doing a decrement. That is, let's have an example here. That let's say we have an x is equal to 5, and that will be, then we just going to override the value. That will be saying the new value will be, oh, the first we need a var here, that to declare variable, that will be x equal to x minus 5. So then we are saying take the old value 5 here, and then decrement with 1. So that is 5 minus 1, that will be 4. Okay, and let's see the result. Then you can simply display x inside this one. And if I run this one, you will see prompt with 4 inside. So that's mean we use a decrement, and that is equal to the short form is x minus, the short form is this one, x minus equal to y. Okay, you can also use this one. All right, and then this is multiplication, division, the same thing, but these are the short forms we have. All right, and this is an example that we have just seen. And we have a value x is equal to 10, and this one is saying that you need to add 5, that is equal to x is equal to x plus 5, that will be 15. Okay, that is the short form we're using here. And all right, so now let's look at different data types. So we have seen that in C++ we have different data types. That we have integer data type, then we have float data type, then we have double, then we have string, then characters. These different data type we use there. Then objects we have there as well. And in JavaScript we have same thing, but to declaring them we can use a let or var. Okay, you don't need to specifically mention that this is a int data type or it's a double data type. It will automatically understand that we have a variable let length will be 16, weight will be 7.5. These are float values. Okay, and then we have string, that is color, same a variable name, and then we assign a string value. and then we have booleans, true, false, and objects. Then we have an object, that means first name is John and the last name is Doyle. Let's say this is an object. And we have some array objects that these values are on indexes, and then we have our date objects. Then we have current date, let's say 22 date 2 in 3, and year, month, and day. All right. Okay, then okay, now let's look at conditions. But before let's declare few data types so you can understand better. Yes, so let me comment this one. And so we're saying variables could be float or could be strings. Let's declare a variable, let's say interest rate. Let's say this is a variable, interest rate is 3.5, so this is a float variable. And then we have variable rate, let's say car model, and that will be, let's say Honda CRV. And then so it's a string variable, and let's say the price is $19,000. all right. And you can use, let's say I like to paint car model and make, and let's say it will be using console.log. So we have three different data types I use, and console.log, that will be car model. Okay, you will see inside the page that in the console, all right, you will see an output will be this one, Honda CRV. Got the idea? All right, so now let's look at conditions. Condition are same that we have. The syntax is that we trying to look at possible relation. Could be that most of time with conditions we use relational operators, that is equal to, less than equal to, greater than equal to, less than equal to, and these kind of relations we see. And the syntax is, the keyword we use is if, and then we have an expression, then opening curly bracket and closing curly bracket, that is the block. And we, let's say we have a variable var x is equal to 5, and the condition now it's an expression. We are saying if x less than 10, we will display, we will alert, let's say I'm going to use alerts, and x is less than 10. Okay, now you will see an alert that will say x is less than 10. all right, and got the idea? So this is the conditions. So we can have a multiple nested conditions, but let's first look at if and its alternative execution, that is else block. But let's say if x is not less than 10, let's say I have 15, there will be a no output, and we will handle these situations with an else block, that is alternative execution. That will be, we now have a display that alert x is not less than 10. Okay, and now you will see this prompt will be there, x is not less than 10. So we have an if conditions. If it is true, so this expression will return true or false, boolean true or false. So that means if it's true, you can execute these statements. Otherwise, if it is false, then you will go inside this block, that is an else block, and execute this statement. Then we have if, nested if, and nested if is about, let's say we have a number, let's say 5. If again 5, if x is greater than 0, we can say this one is x is positive, and else x is negative, and the output will be positive. All right, but let's say I'm going to use nested if else. That will be, if x is greater than 0, then it's positive. But what will happen if x is equal to 0? It's not negative or not positive. That's when we need to use one more condition, that is nested if else. I'm going to use it inside else block. You can also use here, but you need to change these relations. That will be If x is less than 0, then it is negative. But let's first have the other option first. So I'm going to use inside an else block, because I'm going to handle situations and negative situations here. So I'm saying if x is uh, x is equal to 0, then the alert will be x is 0, then it has its own else block, then otherwise x is negative. Okay, and this is nested if else. Okay, and let's say I have a 0 here. What will be the output? So x is not is equal to 0, this block is false, so that's mean we are inside this area, and x is equal to 0, and we have another condition inside that is saying this one. And if x is equal to 0, that's mean it will run this block first, because this condition is true, and it will go inside this one, and you will see and learn that x is equal to 0. All right, x is 0. So you can have this nested if else inside even in this area, or could be inside else block. So if I move this one from here to here, then I need to change the conditions, and the condition will be like this way. Now I will move this one here, and the relational operator will be like x greater than 0. Then no, x less than 0. If x is less than 0, then you need to like if x is equal to 0, x is 0, and alert otherwise negative, and otherwise it's positive. Okay, so now let's have a value 5. What will be the output? Do you think x is less than 0? No, it's not. Then it will be run x is positive, and if I run this one, you see x is positive. So that's mean I just change the relational operator and also change the condition. The idea is you can use if else even inside an if block, or you can also put inside an else block. That is also a nested conditions. Now let's look at chain conditions with ranges, and I will cover a program that you all are familiar. Let's focus on grades. We have, let's say, marks, and you got, let's say in JS you got, let's say 89 marks, and we have some ranges. So I'm trying to cover chain conditions with ranges, and the condition is, let's say we have if marks are 90 to 100, you will get A, and if marks are 82, so these are the ranges. Okay, 80 to 90, then it will be B, and then if it is 70 to 80, then it will be C, and if it is, let's say, 60 to 70, then it will be D, and otherwise you can say the final one, else you will get F. Okay, now I'm going to cover a chain condition. So let me remove this one here, and again we have a condition. The first one, if we need to handle this use case, that is if your marks are greater than 90, this is the first range we have, then you will alert you can alert A grade. And now for chain condition, this is the keyword we use, else if. Okay, again an expression, and in a given time only one block will be true, and if these conditions if we have, let's say, 10 conditions, and if the compiler find the right block, it will execute that block and then stop. No need to look at the remaining blocks. So you will get an idea. Let me put this one here. Let's say marks greater than 80, you will get, let me copy this one and paste, and you will get B here, and else one more, and let's say marks greater than 70, you will get C. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Let's try to run this one. Do you think marks greater than 90? No, the condition is false. And now we move to next condition, that is marks greater than 80. This condition is true. That means it will execute this block and then stop. No need to look at this one. That's the idea of chain conditions. And another condition we have is else if we have marks greater than 60, then you will get D. And then another one is, the final one is alert. If marks are less than less than 60, you will get F. All right. And if I run this program, the output will be B. All right, because the marks are greater than 80. The second block is true. All right, you got B here. So these are chain conditions, but without gaps. We can also convert for more readability for this program into logical operators that will be using AND operation, because we have a range here. If we have a range, then you can also use logical operators that will be marks less than equal to 100 here, and here that will be marks less than 90, because let's cover this well, less than equal to 90 here, greater than equal to 90, and less than 90, because 90 is already covered in this, is greater than equal. And if I run this one, you will see again B. So that's mean this is more readable, but with logical operators. So that will be greater than equal to 80, greater than equal to 70, and then AND operation marks less than 80 here, and greater than equal to 60, and marks less than 70. Yes, 70, and the final one is, so if it's between 60 to 70, then it will be D, and otherwise F. Okay, that's the idea of chain conditions. Chain condition, if this block is true, then if the first one, let's say if we have 91 marks, then this condition is true. The compiler will run this condition, execute this statement, and then stop. No need to look at these all conditions, because this is the idea of chain condition. But sometimes we have this is also a range, but sometimes we have chain conditions with gaps. Let's say if your age is less than 12 or your age is greater than 65. Okay, let me sketch a scenario. So that is, if your you will get a movie ticket discount, that if let's say war age is war age, and let's say this age is 11, and the scenario is if age is less than 12, or now I'm going to use OR operator, that, and if age is greater than 65, you will get 10% discount on your movie ticket. You got the idea. Now we don't have a range here. This is a range, but with gaps. The program will be like, if age is less than equal, do we need to include equal? Yes, less than equal to 12, or age greater than equal to 65. At least one condition needs to be true. Okay, if you are above 65, you will get discount. If your age is less than 12, you will also get discount. All right, now let's look at few more things, that functions. But before, let's look at loops. So why we need loops? If we doing repetitive actions, that's why we need loops. And the syntax is exactly the same. We just need to declare the same like C++. We need to declare a variables, and the keyword is for. And let's say I like to run loop 5 times. Var I is equal to, let's say the loop start from 1, I less than equal, this is again relational operator, less than 10, and I plus plus increment operator, and then I will display inside using console.log, and the output is my variable I. So you will see it will print 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10, including 10, because it's less than equal to 1. This is the syntax for running for loop in JavaScript. And you see this is the output we have here, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. And this is the syntax for the for loop, And if we are using a while loop, that will be while exactly same. Then we need to declare now variable outside, because there is no increment decrement inside while loop. That will be var I is equal to, let's say, start from 1 and I less than 12, 10 less than equal to 10, and inside we going to use console dot log and going to print I. Okay, you are going to print I, and then you need a step is I plus plus I plus plus, or this is equal to I is equal to I plus 1. That's mean the previous value of I and an increment with 1. Okay, and you will see again exactly the same output. You can also change the step, could be I is equal to I plus 2, let's say. Then it will be 1 3 5 7 and 9. Okay, the no step is 2. All right, so these are the basics of loops as well. And now let's look at an objects we have. The objects we have are, let's say, an arrays, var my array, and then we have string values. No, it's not going to be dictionary curly bracket is used for uh, objects, but let's have some car makes. Let's say we have Honda, and then we have Toyota, and then the last one, let's say it's BMP, and we have 3 values inside this one. And these values are on indexes. So the first one is on 0th index, this is on first, and this one on second index. All right, and I'm going to show the first value, that will be my array, and that will be index 0. Okay, we're going to use loop in a few minutes, but let's manually extract these values first to get an idea of how to extract values from arrays. And you will see we got the Honda here. And if you need a loop, then it will be for, let's opening curly bracket closing var I is equal to 0, because indexes start from 0, and because this one is on 0th index, it's not on first index. Objects arrays start from 0th index, and I less than my, let's say, my array dot length. This is the built-in method I'm going to use. It will give you total number of elements we have in this array. Okay, array dot length, and then I plus plus, and inside I'm going to, let's use alert. So now the page will display alert 3 times. We have 3 elements inside, and I like to extract values my array of I, because I has the index I. First time I 0, second I 1, then 2. Alright, if I run this one, you will see alert now. The first car make, the second one, and the third one. Okay, and this is the all values we have. All right, so this is an example of arrays. And now let's look at the functions. So functions, why we use function? To have reusability in our code, because we don't need to do the same things again and again. We have some modules, and we declare the same module inside the function, and when we need that function, we just simply call that functions. And to declare functions, we have a keyword, that is function. Okay, function, and then the name of your function, that will be, let's say, adding 2 number, add 2 numbers. Okay, and then the list of parameters that we forward to these functions. Then we need the first number, first num, and then separated with comma, this is the parameters we have. And then we need to forward second num, and the opening curly bracket and closing curly bracket, that means a block. And we're going to add 2 numbers, that will be, let's say, var result is equal to first num plus second num. Now we have the result, and then return the result. So that means you did the calculation, give result back to us. And if I call this function, that means I need to forward 2 values. So these are receivers, placeholders. We send value, they receive values. We are not sending any values. That's mean we need to send value. That's the first one is 12, and the second one, let's say, 13, and I'm going to print out with an alert inside here. So inside alert you will see 25. Okay, and if I run this one, you got the output of the function. So calling function is the similar like other programming language. You need to call the name of the function and you need to forward the number of the argument this function is supposed to take. So the first number and the second. Then there's a concept of default values. If you set default value here, then if you do not send value, they will take the default values. Otherwise, if you send the value, then you override the values. Okay, that is the syntax for functions. You could declare function, could be any. Okay, so now you see I'm using alert, but let's say I like to show the result inside this element. Most of the time we use element and we change the contents, then it will be. So now the first thing I need to do is to move my script below this one, because, or I can simply move this above, because JavaScript needs to, the HTML element should be inside the web page, and then you can apply your JS. All right, and I'm going to, that will be document dot get element by id, and by id dot inner html is equal to, and I'm going to call this function, and you will see this message will be replaced with 25, because I'm going to change the content of the element. The content of the element inside is, this is my first JS program, and that the element we have, and I'm going to change the content. So that means you can also call function like that. I'm just using the alert box, but now let's see this one. If I run this one, you see now 25 here, and then you can also apply styling. Could be, let's copy the same thing that we have here. Let's, and you will see 25 with red background. Okay, all right, so now let's look at what else left in functions. These are the functions. Why we need function? For reusability we use functions. Okay, these are important in JavaScript. Most of the time we use exactly these things in web programmings, and those are the events. The first one is on change, on click events, on mouse over. The user move the mouse over an HTML elements, and moves on mouse out. The user moves the mouse away from the HTML elements. Okay, and then we have on key down and on load. So these events are important. Most of the time we use on click and on change events sometime, because if we click we need to do a form validation. Let me show you an examples first. And we have these forms, this one. So these are the events, and I'm going to use on click event here. Okay, if I click on this one, I leave this empty, you will see it will trigger an action that you need to do form validation. That means you need to fill these text areas. And if I click on this, all fields are required. And if I enter, let's say my name, and again saying, let's say my email, and it will again trigger in the same event. And then we have, let's say 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. You will see password do not match error, and if I enter 1 2 3, you will see now we did the form validation. Now it's time to submit the form, so we can save this information in the database. That's the idea of form validation using JS. All right, you see now it's saying it's submitted, because it's not doing any submission right now, not doing connected to MySQL database. But the idea is first do the form validation using JS, and then you can submit the form. All right, now let's look at these events, and we have different events. Let me open the events, and there is on click, on change, and this is the one we have. All right, so this is the first event we have, the page loaded. Okay, when the browser load your page, that is page loaded. Maybe you want to change the background of your web page, or could be anything. And this is on click event we have, you see button click. And then this is on change event. We have these options. Sometimes we have main category, and then based on category we select subcategories. All right, for example, we select the country. If we select the country, then it show the states. Let's say we select United States, and it will show different states in the US. The first you need to select the country. Okay, that's the idea. The main category, then subcategories. Based on the selection of the main category, you can display the content, maybe hide content, or maybe display content. Sometimes depend on scenarios. This is hover events, and this event is used for searching on key down. You see, now I just type my name, the last key I type A, and then we have Z, and then C. This type of events we use for searching in web technology, in web pages. And these are used when we don't want to refresh our page. So this is searching without refreshing your page, and also using JS. Okay, then there is another one that is with jQuery, but that's also not a part of this lecture at this point. But we're using JS on key down. All right, so now let's look at this one, and you get the idea of forms. That these are the important ones, that we do form validation using JavaScript. All right, and these are the forms that we have, and these are the elements we have. And the first is form validation example, just an example, heading, elements, and we have a form there. We have name, and again I'm saying that the important one in JS is to give IDs to the elements, because you see an ID here, and then we have an ID here, and this is the second label we have, and then text area, then the password, the type is password, and the ID is password, because we're going to access these elements using their IDs in JS. And then we have password, just to confirm password, and then we have simple if else conditions to confirm. And the event we're going to use is that this one that on submit, when we're trying to submit this form, return true or false. If it is true, then submit the form, otherwise false means then you need to do the validations. Okay, the return validate form is the method that we declared above. And now let's look at the validate form, and inside that validate form, this is the validate form, this is the function, and we just access all the values of this text area. We're saying name document get element by id name dot value. We first get the value, and then trim method is used to remove extra spaces. Maybe you have a space after, or maybe sometime mistakenly you have a space before. Trim method will remove those kind of spaces. And then we have an email document get element by id email value dot trim, and then password. So here we don't using a trim method, maybe space is considered as a password, so that will be password. And then confirm password with the value, and we have just declared a string variable without any message at this point. It's a declaration but without any values. We are saying if name is equal to, so this three equal signs. Okay, in JavaScript comparison is with three equal signs is equal to empty, email is equal to empty, password is equal to empty, and confirm. If all these values you leave them blank, then there will be a message that all fields are required that you have seen. And if password is not equal to confirm password, then the second message will be error message, will be password do not match. This is the only validation we're doing, but we sometimes have different kind of validation. Maybe you have validation that for the password length should be 10 characters, then you get all those characters that user enter, and then calculate the length. If length is less than, let's say, 10, you again generate an error. And sometime we have errors that maybe name should not exceed maybe 50 characters. Those are different kind of validations we can do, but these are the basic. If you leave blank or confirm password, but you have seen a lot of onlines. And okay, so now these two validations we have. And if we say if there is an error message, that is true. If we and use this syntax, if there is an error message, that means it's not empty, because if there is error, that means it will, initially it was empty. If there is error, then there will be a value inside it. Could be if you leave blank, that will be all fields are required, or if you If you password do not match, then there will be an error, then there will be a string inside this variable. We are saying if it is not empty, this is saying this is not empty, or if there is an error, then document get element by id the error, and show the inner text that will be inner text or inner html. Fine. Okay, that inner text we are saying that will be, and this is the element we have, this one here. The inner text will be that error message that we have. Okay, and also change the style color to red. Okay, and let me show you an example how it looks like. So we have this form, and if we're trying to submit this one, there is an element here. I can show you the element if we look at the source code, and this is the element here because it has no content inside. This is the id's error. You can see this form validation also showing you all your JS, because this is also client-side programming language. You can see almost everything, elements, and also your JS. And if I run this one, you see now we introduce all fields are required. But now let's look at the source code. Can I see? No, but you see it's a event based programming language. We introduce new event here, and it just have a new text inside, but with this error message and the color. All right, so now let's look at what left. So most of time we use event programming in JS, right? And we have seen an event on click on change is exactly same, but we sometimes need ajax there. Sometimes we access elements or maybe HTML properties accessing database, that I have given you an example before, that I'm trying to access categories and subcategories. Based on category we access elements from database and then show those elements in our web page. All right. Okay, so these are arrays we already we discussed, and then this is the method length method, and these are elements. This is an object, and we are trying to convert this an object into strings, could be, and that these are built-in methods for arrays. And we are saying here that banana, orange, and apple, mango, we have an array, and we are saying what is at index 2. It's like a searching. So it's saying 0, 1, and 2. It will display an apple here, that index 2 is apple. All right, so we have events. We covered events. I have shown you an example. Form validation, we have seen example.